Hello, welcome to the Rain Project podcast. Today I have a special guest, Ms. Marquita Bonds here. Today we're going to talk about mental health, and especially during these times, the pandemic, COVID-19, also dealing with the holidays, losing loved ones, students being out of school and having to deal with that online education. I know that it's doing a lot to them, even for the staff, the adults that are working in the school systems. And then also especially losing people to COVID, which is really is I don't necessarily want to say COVID, but just this holiday time is really hard for you to lose a loved one, or because this is the time that family gathers with each other. So I invited Marquita onto the show because I wanted to talk about mental health and how we can cope with the loss of loved ones, or cope with just being African American in the United States, having to deal with PTSD and things like that. We sometimes don't want to go to counseling and therapy because it's such a stigma. It has a negative connotation towards it in our Black community. We feel like we've always done, we're going to just brush it up under the rug, we're going to act like it doesn't exist. But it does. And the only way we're going to heal is by going through therapy, counseling, talking to someone, and also knowing that you're not the only one that's dealing with it. Last year I took advantage of going to therapy to deal with some issues that I was dealing with, and it helped me tremendously to get another insight on my thought process. And what I did learn through that was that the world is not black and white, it's gray. And everyone wasn't raised like me, everyone doesn't think like me, we all don't have the same heart. We're different, and we have to choose if we're going to let that bring us down, or acknowledge that people are different, going to affect you differently, and going to move on from that. So, Marquita, I do have the Rain Project non-for-profit. I brought her on to help with our mental health aspect of the program. And she has a program that she came with already built in called the Life Program. So I want her to go ahead and introduce herself and then tell us a little bit about life.
Okay, so I'm Marquita. A little bit about my background. I have a bachelor's in psychology, a master's in rehab administration, and I'm a doctoral candidate. I'm working on my PhD for family and marriage counseling. I have an extensive background working with all populations. I spent some time working in mental hospitals, in jail settings, so just a gamut of different individuals that need some services. So the Life Project, which stands for Love Yourself First Every Day program. So the reason why I created it is mental wellness program. And so we tend to kind of shun, like Latanya was saying, that we kind of, stray away from mental health issues because it's so highly stigmatized. And so I wanted to create a program for, originally was for young girls, but it really expands across all geographic backgrounds, and everyone would benefit from it. And I wanted to create something where it was more in layman's terms, because we treat mental illness so formal. You get those formal diagnoses. You hear about schizophrenia, you hear about the bipolar, but I wanted to talk about it in a way where everyone that didn't take the formal education would, kind of relate to it better. And so that's where life comes. And so one of the premises is love yourself first every day. We tend to care about everybody else except for ourselves first. And guess what? Sick people cannot help anyone. Right. And so I think about some of the components of the program. And one of the things that I learned while working with juveniles, in particular girls, is one of their sayings is, "Don't nobody love me."
Right.
And me as a counselor said, "What you mean don't nobody love you? You don't love yourself?" And they would look at me kind of bewildered, like, "What are you talking about?" And so I realized at that moment that, yeah, no, you're not taught how to love yourself.
Right.
So that's pretty much where I got life from.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I know we work together too with the youth, and I always made it my business when I made a connection with the young girls or in the guys too.
Mm-hmm.
I would always be like, "Love you" before you leave, because a lot of them don't have that at home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of them don't have that. So there's something that I try to practice a lot with the youth as well, to let them know somebody does care.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's talk about, as far as losing someone, and especially around these times, the pandemic, how to remain focused during the holidays, and trying to work through that scene, especially in our social media era where everybody's posting their family, hanging out, you know, even though we're not supposed to be around our family as much these times, but
Mm-hmm.
people don't do it anyway because you miss your family.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some tips that you can give to someone that has lost a loved one on how to cope during these times when it's really time for gathering?
You know what? It's so multifaceted, this question and statement. And so a tip that I would recommend, for you can't get close to your family or anything like that, or you've lost your loved one, and it's tough. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it's really tough. And it's that way by design. And so to cope with that, some strategies, what I found my husband doing, because he lost his husband, his father. I'm sorry, my husband lost his father, um, not too long ago, and so he's kind of searching for, things to know him better, and to fill that void, and so pictures. Okay. And I know we kind of lose in touch on that old school version of, having actual physical pictures. Mm-hmm. Take your phone and send it to Walgreens, all the photos in your phone, send it to Walgreens, go get a photo album, and literally put those pictures in that photo book.
Like you just do old school.
Old school, because it's a great way to reminisce about those good times. It's time consuming because I sat with them and we did it for about 3-4 hours and trying to figure out who is who, and then you get to calling your auntie or your uncle, like, who is this in this picture? And so that was a big help. Some of the other things is let people know that you're feeling that way. Mm-hmm. That is the biggest thing. If you're not feeling okay, it's okay not to feel okay.
It's expected.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just, find somebody that you can trust to tell those things, I really miss such and such, and then that way someone can do that check-in with you, okay? And hopefully by the end of that conversation, if you really have a good person or that support system, by the end of that conversation, you'll feel better.
Okay. You sent me something that said the difference between mental health
and mental wellness.
And mental wellness. What is mental health and what is mental wellness?
So they're used interchangeably. And mental health is just pretty much that study of, your overall emotional, psychological health. Okay. Right? And mental wellness, like I said, they're used interchangeably, one and the same, but mental wellness is a little bit different in regards of, let's just say everyone goes to their annual checkups, or depending on what age you are, you have certain checkups that you have to go to. That's your physical wellness checks, right? Okay. But no one checks in on their mental wellness. Okay. And so that wellness part is making sure that everything is functioning, everything is okay. And I haven't seen it unless you're in an active therapy. Mm-hmm. And when you're in therapy, first thing the therapist is going to do is a check-in. How you doing? Right. And so that wellness part, throughout, anybody's lifespan or day, there's things physically happening with us. You eat because you're hungry. You go to the bathroom because you have to go to the bathroom. Those physical aspects, but taking that time and saying, okay, I feel stressed out. What is stressing me out? Okay, what can I do to decompress or de-stress? And so we tend to push through those things instead of actively taking care of those things. Like go get something to eat when you're hungry, you go to the bathroom when you need to, those things. And so with that mental wellness piece, being an active participant in your mental health.
Okay. So that's like even with us dealing with certain students and their issues. What I used to do was we had the counselor, Mr. Clayton, that came in all the time. I would decompress with him. It'll turn into a session where, am I crazy? But, he'd be like, no, Ms. Dirk, no, Ms. D. So I understand that. You have to bounce that off on someone. Or I do it to my guy. I'd be like, he'd be like, I'm barely listening to you, but I'm listening out, So it's like, but you have to get that stuff off your chest. And I suggest for everyone to have a sounding board, someone you can talk to. It doesn't necessarily have to be a therapist all the time because you may not have access to a therapist at that time. But if you do, you can't walk around with all that stuff building up in you. And I learned that because I turned into a hothead. So I had to be able to learn how to let some of that stuff go. And know that it's not all my burden. We have to put those things in the place that they need to be so I can remain and be. I can't give if I'm drained.
Exactly. Sick people can't help sick people. And it's funny that we're talking about it because when you let that stuff go, I like to use analogies. It's just like if Black folks understand diabetes, the sugar, right? We understand that, right? We understand sugars, that we know that, oh no, I can't have that cake, or oh no, I need to take my insulin, or oh, I need to go to the doctor because I have diabetes and X, Y, and Z. But we won't take that same mindset for our mental health. Saying, oh no, I need to go talk to the therapist because this trauma happened to me, or okay, I need to talk to my best friend, my person, so I can let some of this go.
And stress will kill you too.
Oh yeah.
Just like diabetes will, the sugars, stress will kill you and cause other health effects in you with the gallstones and all types of stuff like that. So you have to be able to find somewhere to deposit that at.
And our body is so it's
sensitive.
It's amazing. Our brain is so sensitive. That's our most sensitive organ is our brain. And so just like you were saying, things will manifest in your body. Just like we can understand diabetes, right? And if you don't get it taken care of, your body will. Some people's bodies swell up, or limbs get to swelling up and everything like that. That's the same thing that happens with mental illness. And so just because we can't see it physically doesn't mean that's not happening inside of your body.
Now, how does the mental illness or lack of acknowledging mental illness affect our youth these days?
I think our youth, I think with the current culture of what's the music is going on, I'm not really savvy about it. I know there's a couple artists.
The drill music?
Not even the drill music. What's the guy that was on an airplane and took all those pills?
Oh yeah, I can hear his song.
Yeah, I think right. And he had the depressing music. All my friends are dead. That kind of music. And so the kids are actually more in tune to like things that are depression, and they're more in tune with like suicide in all actuality, because if you pay attention to them, they're telling us everything on social media through their music and all of that. And so what was the question as far as with the...
How do you feel like the lack of acknowledging mental illness affects our youth?
Yeah, so I think the lack of, with adults, acknowledging for ourselves will manifest onto our kids, especially if you start talking about things in a household in a familiar type of sense. And so if we're kind of, bringing it closer to home, everything, as we all know, the cliche is it starts at home. And so yes, we'll have the youth posting everything online or expressing how they feel on social media, but their mom or their dad doesn't know what's going on with them. Right. And so that's because we are under that mind frame where we, for so long, what stays in this house, what happens stays in this house. And so mom and dad had some drama.
Right.
And so they suppressed it. And so they're not talking to their kids about, okay, this is how I was feeling when this happened, and this is why I'm behaving this way because of this had happened to me. And so I think that will perpetuate the ongoing from the youth, and then the youth become adult, and they, repeat the same cycles. And so I think it's great now that, more so now that we have so much time at home, that we are starting to look at things more closely and kind of putting some light to those type of issues.
Okay. That whole thing of sweeping it under the rug and that learned behavior has stimulated a culture of suicide. We hear a lot. A lot of times I listen to parents that curse their kids and call them out their names and things like that, and it's like how dare you? But that's learned behavior. But when they come out into society and go into the schools, they act that same way. And I understand that. So I look at the kid differently than someone else that doesn't want to take the time. That's why I say you always have to be mindful of who's working with your child or who's being around the youth, because a lot of times they're not working with their heart. They're working with I'm the adult, do what I say, not, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And and I can take a lot of stuff from the kids because I know that they're learning this. They just need to be corrected. But how do we correct this whole generation? So once they get into their 20s and start having kids, what can we do as a whole to correct this in a large, instead of one by one, how can we reach out to them?
The best, whatever is speaking to the kids right now, and which is that music, that social media aspect, and literally there's so much power in their favorite celebrity and getting to that person, or that local rapper, and having him or her acknowledge, their issues and saying, hey, look, I'm going through this, and I'm, saying this.
G Herbo did that.
Yeah, exactly. PTSD. Yeah, those sort of things, and it's bringing it, it's reaching those masses. So that's why we're seeing, so many people or youth putting those things out there like that. So I think on a bigger scale, having, that social media aspect of reaching out to them and saying, I would like to see, like maybe an app or something created for it, I'm not tech savvy, but I would love to see someone, doing those check-ins and, a little bit different, a little bit more private than the Facebook, and because you have to be careful because everybody is not going to be for it or for you if you're expressing yourself in appropriate ways, but having those type of avenues so it can reach the masses.
Do you feel like if parents raise their kids a certain way to be in a toxic environment, that they should have that conversation with the kid and apologize? There was a conversation going on Facebook once upon a time where should you apologize to your kids?
Absolutely. I think that is powerful because it's acknowledging I did something to you.
And you're teaching them on how to be a responsible adult, and also to recognize when they get older and have to be in a setting, with a work setting or in a school setting, to acknowledge that they did something wrong, and they learn the power. A lot of people don't believe so, though.
I think if people think, oh, I didn't do anything wrong, well, more power to you, but it doesn't negate how that person may feel or whatever. And so I think on an individual level, if you are wrong, you're not forgiven for them. You forgive them for yourself, because it goes back to, okay, I'm harboring some negative energy and now it's manifesting, and now my toe hurt, or whatever. And
my
so,
hair falling
yeah,
out.
all of those type of things. And so, I guess it's two coins or whatever. Where, okay, yes, absolutely. If you've wronged someone, apologize, because that may mean the world to that person. But also recognizing that person might not be ready in that time and space to own up to what they've done wrong. And so you have to take that mental stock and say, hey, I was wrong, and how can I learn from that?
Right.
And how can I be better?
Okay. So we have the craze of working through your mental illness with all the social media sites and stuff. Like you were saying, like the red table discussion or the Taraji. She's doing her wellness
peace of mind
now. Yeah.
How do you feel? So how do I feel about that now?
Love it.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that on the ride in, that in particular. So caution. And I'm never going to be negative about anything that's positive. I caution, you have to be careful about individuals, because they're not therapists. They're not trained. They are having a conversation that is valuable, and in essence, I think is giving people courage, which is always a great thing, because a lot of times we don't have the courage to talk about our mental illness. Like I said, it's not necessarily shameful to, have, hypertension, but it's shameful if you are bipolar. Right. In our community, right? Yeah. And so I think those avenues, you have to be careful, because they're not counselors, but on the other side of it, it's doing a great thing as far as bringing those issues to light. They're bringing their celebrity to it. Now, as part of it, though, I had got into a Facebook discussion about it. Remember that whole thing where Jada and her little boo thing, her entanglement. Oh, yes. So and this is why I say be careful, because we're not going to talk about the age difference and all that, but he had mental illness. Yeah. And so he was confiding in her, and in my mind, being a therapist and a counselor, there's no way I'm going to engage in an inappropriate relationship with someone that relationship is different, because he's confiding in you in a way, because he has a severe mental illness. And so you're offering up advice. You're not supposed to be falling in love with him. Right. And so that's why I say be careful of those type of people, because sometimes it may be an advantageous situation for them, because she was trying to get her kikis off of this little boy. That's a whole nother story. He probably was coming on her too. Well, and he's a vulnerable person, because he's looking for that connection. He needs that attention, and so, oh, mama, you listen. Nobody has ever listened to me. Yeah, because I watched his documentary. It's sad, but yeah, that's true. Okay, so some pointers on how to cope during this pandemic. Well, sitting at home outside of drinking to the bar, outside of running to the bar. Right, yeah. So, I mean, everyone is different. So whatever it is that you like, start a business. Hey, so many people that I know have started their own business, and it's their little side business, and it might become something bigger. But we have so much time, and the ironic thing is, we always want to go. I wish I had some more time. And now we have it. And so I think if everybody take a step back and say, hey, I really got the time now to do all of the things that I said I wish I had time for. You got it now. So we tend to kind of get caught up on, oh man, I can't do this. I can't go out. I can't do this. Think about what you can do. So that's first off. Pick up a new hobby. Besides the drinking, new hobbies. I know so many people who started making T-shirts on the crickets and all that kind of stuff. Scrapbook, get those pictures out that tote
family time.
Yeah, family time.
Learn your kids.
Exactly. Learning what they like, what they don't like, what their friends are like, all of that. Have conversations. Sit down and have that dinner that, it's a little different. Instead of running out to McDonald's, you sit down and make that dinner and have an actual sit down at the table. And that, even if you're not saying too much, that's okay. It's just spending that time together. So yeah, those are some coping strategies. And also, I employ everybody to, on the mental health side, is to take stock, which means, kind of sit back, am I okay? And really ask yourself that. And if there's some things that need to be, addressed, try to address them, because you have you have the time to do it now. So, yeah, because I've actually counseled a couple people so far, and you have the time to sit down and think about the behavior of why people behave in the way they behave, and not coming at from a judgmental space, but a more of an understanding. I've done that for myself, and I think Tanya tell you I'm the most even keeled. Don't know how to bother me, because I know who I am, and I understand that people are coming from, who you're seeing is not necessarily, where they're from, and so, and where they're from could be all muddy and everything, and yeah, so I think if you find that understanding, seek that.
I think a lot of the issues too with people sitting at home and complaining, because this has been the best year for me, and I hate to even say that because of all the deaths and stuff that's going on, but this has been the best year for me, ever. But I think a lot of the complaining is coming from is that we're so much on the go a lot, that now you have to actually sit at home with yourself. And y'all don't like yourselves. Exactly. So work on that. Yeah. Work on that part you don't like about yourself.
That life. That's where it comes from. Looking at your life, and love yourself first every day. And then,
because you run from yourself when you're able to be out and about and go here and go there, lunch here, dinner there. You come home and you go to bed. But when you're sitting at home, you get up in the morning, you in the house, you got to do your Zoom calls or whatever, you in the house 24/7, you sitting there with yourself, and you realizing, I don't even like who I am. And that's, I promise you, probably 50% of the issues why people having a problem with the pandemic right now.
Yeah, I think so too.
They got to sit and wallow in who they are.
And so, yeah, and that's why I said, when you sit and take that stock as to am I okay or whatever, dealing with yourself. And let me tell you something. I went back and looked at my father, the relationship I had with him, the relationship I had with my mother. I looked at the relationship that their parents had with my parents. And then I even went as far back as my great grandmother, and understanding, because everybody got that grandmama that, oh, that grandmama ain't the grandmama that we grew up with. And so I had to get an understanding for that, and how to change those patterns, because all of that will be your makeup if you allow it.
Allowing you to be toxic.
And so when people start to really think about it, it's not about blaming yourself. It's literally getting that understanding of what's going on, and so that you can
what
be
changes
better.
You need to make. Yeah. Even with people that are, I don't believe that you have to deal, just because you have family members, you don't have to deal with them if they're toxic to you. And I'm big on that.
Yeah.
And I'm good with whoever I fell out with them. It was for a reason, because like I tell people all the time, I sleep good at night, because I don't do anything to intentionally hurt someone. And if I do something that hurts them, I'm so big and grown enough to say, you know what, you're right, and I was wrong, and this is the part that I played in that. But a lot of people don't know how to own up to that, and people won't like you just because you're able to own up to some stuff like that. I'm a very strong person. I even had a girl tell me one time, Latonya, I can't believe you went to counseling and therapy because you're so strong. Well, damn, y'all want me to break down and shoot up the motherfucking post office? I'm getting confused.
All right, we can cuss over here.
I'm good. You know it's me. But like everybody has their breaking point, and I'm just glad that I acknowledged that I knew when my point was about to be broken, because even when my guy, he tell me all the time, man, forget all that, but damn, I am human. And I feel too. So I can't always brush it up under the rug, because I'm gonna be out here shooting up some stuff if I don't handle it.
Yeah, and you know what, let's go back to that reality, those reality shows with the mental issues topics. I think it was Taraji. I think I was watching it the other day, and they mentioned the strong black woman.
Yep.
And we
Tamar.
And we don't hear about strong white woman or strong Hispanic or strong Asian woman.
We're just supposed to take it,
and we have to, and that is why mental health, mental wellness should be tailored for us specifically. Yeah. Because we're dealing with issues that no other are dealing with.
Yeah, we blame when our kids don't excel, even though they got a whole daddy.
Exactly.
We're supposed to take the brunt, take whatever is given to us, and don't complain about it. It's crazy, and it's not fair.
Yeah, and so on the social media, I see a lot of posts. Check on your strong friend.
Yeah, all the time.
And I think I'm the strong friend out of my group, and so, but I'm aware of what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
The strategies and tips if I'm not feeling okay or whatever. But yeah, those strong people are the most sensitive. Are the most fragile, if you will, because like Tanya said, like, oh, I'm about to pop. And I need to go talk to somebody. Like, I can't believe, and even in that statement, it's kind of a negative connotation that, oh, you went to therapy. Yeah. Like, well, sure, you ain't supposed to. Well, oh, Latanya, your eyeball falling out. Oh, you went to the doctor. Like,
girl, you could have patched that up yourself.
Yeah, I know. So,
and that's really how people be talking to me. And I know I'm a strong person, but damn.
No, and so we have to, I think as a culture, we have to reprogram how we look at this mental health with mental wellness situation. It's not something that we are immune to because you're so tough, or you're immune to because you're so strong. Like, no, everyone has mental health regardless of how strong you may be. Everyone has it, and it's a continuum. Some days you might be great. Some days you might not. You might be, I don't know, I might lose it today. And so we need not to take that for granted.
Right, absolutely. So, anything else you may want to add?
What you got on your little bag, girl? What?
Well, we didn't hit all our points already.
Well, I can have my wine. I know I can see me drink my wine on camera, though.
Oh, girl.
Yeah.
She drank just like I do. Cheers.
All right, y'all.
But, so basically, we just wanted to come in and just hit those points on making sure you do check in with somebody. Making sure that you do reach out to those family members that you may not have talked to in a long time, so you can remember the loved ones that you lost. So that was a good thing. Reconnect with your family members that you don't see often, and bring up those good memories of some loved ones that you may have lost. And also take the time to talk to your kids. See what's going on with them. It's hard out here, especially with the crime that's going on. The deaths of the youth. A lot of these kids, they're suffering because they're scared. They've lost so many. Even just working in a high school one year, I think I lost 13 kids to gun violence. And that was hard on me. So I know it's hard on their friends. And they're scared. And I think that's why a lot of murders go on, because they are scared. They don't want it to be them. So I'm going to shoot first before somebody shoot at me. Things like that. So mental health is really a big thing in our community, and we really need to take advantage of it. I wish it was free for everyone. I really feel like in the Black community, because of PTSD, it should be free.
It's coming soon.
I think it's a disease, for us that requires, because we've been having PTSD since they brought us over here from our ancestors over from Africa. You know, it affects us differently. It's in I know my cousin Josh was telling me he read something that it's in our DNA.
It is
to have PTSD. We're triggered by so many different things that we don't even know about. We're triggered riding in a car and a police car pull up behind us because even though you ain't did nothing wrong, your heart beating fast. I had a police officer that's friends I went to college with, and I met with him at breakfast, and he told me, he said, hell, sometimes, he said, I get scared when the police officer get behind me and I'm a cop. And that's fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, and that just shows it's in our DNA, you know, to be scared of certain things. It's gonna take a lot.
Yeah, I think and one conversation is just not enough.
No.
I think I'm working on trying to each topic needs its own, you know, highlight, because especially when police brutality, gang violence, you know, poverty,
homelessness,
you know, all of those things in our community specifically, as it relates to mental illness is just it's just astounding. And so those things need its own specific highlight, and then that's how we can kind of, like you said earlier, how can we kind of help things in a collective?
Yeah.
I think if you break it down to build it back up, that would be overall great for.
Even though we all feel like that is designed to be this way to break us down in the first place, but we are such a brilliant people, and I hate for us not to reach our full potential, based off of what the system that's been put in place to hold us back anyway. We need to rise above that, you know, and first it comes by just reading and acknowledging what's really going on, and stop finding fault in things that you don't understand, but learning it, and even if you don't agree with it, let it be. If that's the way someone feels, or that's how they acknowledge how you're treating them or you're making them feel, let that be, and just understand that's how I feel. You can't change that. But also look in yourself and see how I can make other. We have to start with ourselves. We have to start treating each other better. We just have to. It's crazy how we worry about the wrong thing.
Have you seen that movie Ma Rainey?
Yeah.
Okay. And so it was a specific part, the end part actually, when and I hope I'm not spoiling the movie for anybody, but he got rejected by the White Music Gazette about his music, and he came back in and he was deflated, and the brother stepped on his shoe
and he went off on him, and
he killed him.
Yeah.
And I said, this is exactly, it just kind of hit home for me, because we're trying to ask, you know, why are our kids killing each other? And it don't even have nothing to do with each other. At all. It's literally
outside forces that you bring around someone that you're comfortable with. You rather hurt someone you're comfortable with instead of saying, I'm hungry, I'm self-medicating for a reason, I don't have nowhere to lay my head. But when you come across someone that you know, because you're hurting, you rather hurt them too.
It's that classic displacement of energy and displacement or transference. And so I think if we all start to acknowledge those areas and not just, okay, yes, it exists, but, you know, as a collective, we got so much money out here. We have so much money. They took all the mental health programs, right? But we know that's what we need. And so we need to start building our own and saying, hey, we need to get all those youth, you know, when they're in school, hey, you want to be a counselor? Let me show you what's to it or whatever. And kind of creating those things so we can be better. Because it will be, for lack of a better word, crazy out here if we don't.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
For coming on and sharing, giving us some pointers. Also, look for us soon to be working with the youth. It's just that this COVID has shut so many things down that we can't do the work that we want to do through the RAIN Project, non-for-profit, but we're getting it together. We're trying to start our many counseling sessions with the youth and things like that, but we just have to get over this hurdle of staying away from everybody for COVID. But it's coming. That's our goal to, to work on mental health issues and everything else that's ailing our youth and our young adults in the city of Chicago for now, because I plan on taking this, throughout the United States of helping. I see what's needed. I know what's needed. I have the heart for it. I'm ready for the challenge, and I just feel like I have my kids growing up. I need my kids to be around people that are just as, functional as they are. Mm-hmm. And not to say my kids ain't crazy, because they special too. But I want them to help me and to bring in some of those tools, and I want to bring in other youth to peer mentor and things like that, and even our young Black men. I'm big on working with the young Black men, because I feel like once we get them back in their proper place, everything is going to fall into place. Everything is going, but first they need to realize that they are kings, so they can get back on their throne and know they got to start ruling back over what God has made them to be. So, but soon, RAIN Project is coming soon. Pushing the work that we really want to push to help our communities out. Thank you again, Marquita. You want to give if anyone want to reach out to you for anything? You want to give your social media?
It's just Marquita Bonds on Facebook and I guess M Jones on Instagram. That's about it. I'm old. I don't have no YouTube. What's the YouTube Spaces or what's the other one? Twitter account.
Twitter. Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. Well, then you can find the RAIN Project on Facebook, REIGN Project, and also on Instagram. And then of course follow our YouTube channel. And we'll talk soon.